Ben, welcome to the stream. How are you doing?
What up?
Believe in something.
How you guys doing?
Believe in Ben. What's
Very
going
true.
on? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to see you guys. How you guys doing?
It's good. We haven't talked in a few years. I'd love to just get the update. I had
should've-
no idea what a tear you've been on.
Friend of ours, Dylan, is here at the studio. He's going to do a live interview later, and he brought you up, and John was like, Ben Pasternak?
Yeah. We talked a bunch.
And had no idea. He's so locked in on traditional tech that he had no idea what you're up to, and then we explained, of course.
So yeah, why don't you actually just give me catch me up to speed on what you're building?
Yeah. Well, Believe is a platform for belief and people empowerment. So if you want to contribute something to the world, if you want to build something, if you want to create art, if you want to create a song, whatever it is, you can come to Believe and raise the capital you need.
Okay, break how is this different than NFTs? What technologies are we leveraging? It's obviously somewhat crypto related, but then comp it to a Patreon for me.
Well, so I'll give you some context. Please. Luke Metro, friend of the show, I believe he used Believe.
This is Believe. Okay,
Believe.
Got it. Cool.
John's familiar.
Okay, I've interacted with this.
Cool. Yeah. It's basically we enable people to launch a coin on Solana super easily. Mm-hmm. The tokenomics itself are pretty straightforward. What we kind of introduced to the space is like a fee that's collected. Basically a trading fee, and creators are able to raise money through that trading fee. The product went like super viral this past month. It's only 4 weeks old because you can launch a coin directly from Twitter. So we're kind of tapping into the existing trend of builders like building something, screen recording it, posting it on X, and they can just tag launch coin to launch a coin.
So you're even removing even more barriers. You don't even have to go to the different website, no wallet or anything. But I assume at some point you can interact with the blockchain at like a lower level through the actual app, but the initial kickoff and instantiation happens all on X. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So you launch
cool.
an X, and assuming your coin does well, you can download our app, link your X, and claim your fees, edit your project details. And we're also building kind of like an ecosystem for people to like integrate their coin into their product, engage with different mechanisms, and that's all through the app.
So what is kind of like the optimistic use case here for someone actually using this to fund kind of a new idea or new concept? Because there are places where you can go and get a grant for something, but increasingly it's harder and harder to get a grant for great art or even raise money for the next movie because of Hollywood and all these other dynamics. So what does a win condition look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different depending on the industry you're in. Tech obviously has venture capital, which is a pretty good system. I think it is evolving just because, I guess the big trend is you're seeing a lot of ARR, MRR in people's bios. And I think thanks to AI, engineers are way more efficient. There's like less of a need to raise a huge amount of money up front. So if you can I guess bootstrapping is kind of in, and this is just a great way to get started. So for tech, I think that's the use case. For other, other industries, like there isn't really a great way to fundraise for anything. Like you could start a GoFundMe, but those, generally haven't gone too far. I guess in some cases, but pretty mid outcome. So this can lead to like massive funding, for those types of projects.
Yeah. Do you think that there should be a link between the token and the equity in a company that's eventually created? I imagine at 4 weeks old, you probably haven't figured out that interaction because that's probably the most complex legal menagerie you can imagine. But talk to me about the long-term vision.
Yeah, well, so when we shipped them, we thought they would be purely like attention coins and speculative, but that quickly changed because, the first launches that did really well started integrating their coins into their product, introducing different like burning mechanisms. So I think that the kind of way I view it right now is, they're essentially like utility coins. And, depending on how I consider ourselves to be like the Stripe for coins. So we give developers the tools to like integrate their coin however they want. But at the end of the day, they're really versatile tools, and they're going to come up with all different ways that kind of inspire us. Long term, the regulatory environment is rapidly shifting. So I think that, we're planting a lot of seeds today, and depending on, what happens here, and it's looking pretty good so far, you can do a lot more in terms of equity, et cetera.
It's very interesting.
What's it been like building in crypto, transitioning from, it feels like to me, watching what you built with Simulate from afar. You know, it was always very high profile, always in the news, and more so than I think like a traditional CPG company.
Totally.
So in that sense, like just being good at thinking different and capturing attention and leveraging that probably set you up pretty well for building in crypto. What have been some of the challenges? I imagine you're not sleeping a lot because every time you go to sleep, there's something's breaking or someone's yelling at you or something like that. But what's it been like?
Yeah, well, it's not my first rodeo, to your point. And, prior to Simulate, I built a social networking app called Monkey that has tens of millions of users to this day. So I've got, I'm familiar building consumer software. I think to your point, yeah, the crypto stuff is 24/7. So it's, in most spaces, you have kind of room to iterate and make mistakes. In crypto, the market is less forgiving. So it's, it's a tricky balance because you obviously can't be stagnant, but you have to keep evolving and changing things. So yeah, definitely a pressure cooker environment. But the outcomes are really crazy. And the cool thing about Believe is we have dozens, if not hundreds, of creators that have like raised funding. People have like quit their jobs and gone all in on whatever they're building. And it's rare you get to ship something and for it to immediately have a positive outcome for these people in a like life-changing way. So for me, that's like super energizing. And I hope we can continue to do that at scale.
How do you think this evolves? Right now, it feels like Believe is a product for individual creators, entrepreneurs, artists, like you're talking about. Is there a world, but if you guys become, Stripe for coins, or however you phrased it, is there a world where traditional companies in the future would use Believe to get on chain in some capacity? How do you think about that?
For sure, yeah, we're already seeing that. So kind of the biggest case study is Dupe, which is like a venture-backed company. I can't speak to their exact revenue numbers, but very serious company that has strong PMF. And they launched a coin, and their coin has like crushed it. It's brought them like a new revenue stream. It's like really activated like this new community for them. And yeah, Bobby, the founder of Dupe, has just like really leaned into that. So I think that is going to definitely keep happening. And I guess like some of these individual builders might like launch a project that later evolves into like an actual company, and the coin is like, yeah, could definitely be tied to that. Watching how things unfold.
I want to talk about the line between like good and bad projects, essentially. Like there's two narratives. One is, look, it's all a casino, no crying in the casino. The degens love to just do whatever and just like, what you're getting into. The flip side of that is like, I guess the question is like, there are a lot of people that have launched stuff and it's gone super well and they built really cool things. There's other stuff where it's clearly just been like a rug and a mess and a disaster and it chases them around the internet for a couple months or even years. Where's the line? What would you counsel people to kind of rules of the road today for getting involved in this and not just frustrating a bunch of people and actually having like a good experience and kind of not just obeying the letter of the law, but like the spirit of the law.
Yeah, and on that, like decision making around going, doing curation versus just creating a platform and letting people do kind of whatever they want.
Totally.
Yeah. So, I consider, by the way, I had Alon on earlier, love Alon. He's great, friendly with him. And, also Pump is a huge innovator in the space.
Yeah.
I consider Pump to be kind of like the World Wide Web and what we're doing to be closer to the App Store.
Okay.
You can't completely curate for reasons that I won't go into. Like we can't say, hey, this is good. Because if we do that, we're going to be wrong some of the time.
Sure.
But it is quite easy to say, hey, this is bad. And when we identify bad actors, there's like mechanisms we can integrate to kind of like, basically disincentivize them from launching with us versus like one of these other platforms.
Yeah.
I think like the biggest thing for us is, founder education. So, I think most Silicon Valley founders, like 99%, have like really positive intent with things they do, and it's our job to kind of like create harmony between the traders and the founders, and we can just do like a way better job at that. Similar to like if you fundraise with like a safe, or even if you do like a priced round, your first time doing it, there's usually a pretty big education curve. Like a lawyer is explaining to you what these different mechanisms mean. Most people completely make a mess of it, but by their Series A, they identified the problems they made. So there is education with like existing fundraising mechanisms, and I think that for this too, there's an education that we need to make like really easy.
Yeah, I'm interested. We've talked to some founders who have been kind of like curious about dipping their toes in the water. And
Well, I remember it was we had some buddies.
it talks some people off the ledge.
Yeah, after the Trump coin
So
happened and
why not
ripped,
me?
we had some buddies that were thinking about it, and ultimately at the time, I think they made the right decision not to do something, but things are changing week by week.
And the trick is like it feels like the most basic thing would be like don't rug, don't sell what you own or whatever. But there's this other dynamic that I learned about, and this is probably obvious to everyone who's native to crypto, but I could launch a coin, not sell any. Some traders could come in, pump up the coin, and then people buy when it's at the high, and then those traders sell, and I didn't rug, but like it feels like it rugged, and people are like, I lost money on your thing, and then they're mad at me. And so I guess in terms of like the messaging and the risk reward, like how do you think the rule? Which of the rules?
What you're describing is there's like a PvP dynamic.
Totally.
And so I'm curious for you at a platform level, do you think that like, for example, are there things you can do at a product level so that if an artist comes on to Believe and is like using the mechanism to raise money, you prevent it from turning into this like PvP warfare where people are duking it out?
I feel like we're going to reinvent accredited investor laws because the whole idea is like a venture capital firm can lose $100 million on some crazy biotech startup or some hard tech startup, and it really is no crying in the casino. It's like you guys did your due diligence, you signed the documents, and you gave it a shot, and that particular technology didn't work out. And so as long as there's no fraud, like you move on and you make money on the next thing. But for, like random retail people, sometimes they get caught up and bad outcomes happen. I feel like there's some vibes in the ecosystem that can just be enforced loosely. There's also some rules, there's some platform stuff. So I'm interested in kind of how you're dealing with that, because it's obviously going to evolve a ton over the next few years. I mean, you're going to be running this for a long time.
Totally. Yeah. To me, it's, so Pump being the World Wide Web, there's like very small mechanisms that you can integrate that I think just make the whole space a lot safer.
Sure.
And to your point, the snipers where they like buy a large part of the supply, they kind of dump at the top. There's like a lot of mechanisms like I'm seeing that I think are really interesting, which is basically, having like, extremely high fees for the first, X amount of seconds at trading, so that, the snipers will still get some ownership, but the ownership is like greatly reduced.
Got it.
There's rate limiting. So there's like a max purchase amount, for the first couple of seconds. So a lot of these anti-sniper mechanisms are just like kind of evolving right now. And I think they're going to lead to a much healthier ecosystem.
That's interesting.
And in addition, like, I think it's like the kind of fee. It's hard to say what is good, but it's much easier to say what is bad. So if we do detect bad actors, it's pretty easy for us to kind of disincentivize future bad actors.
Yeah. How much of the viral growth or the growth of the company right now would you attribute just to the specific kind of like viral growth hack of like being able to launch a coin directly on Twitter or X?
Yeah, I'd say maybe like 50%. I think the other thing is that
what else is
within the so-and-so trenches is they've been trading these kind of like traditional meme coins forever, and there's it's a really fun game that everyone enjoys, but there is hunger for a new game, and I think that the vision here has really like energized the whole space. So that narrative alone, I think, has done a lot of damage in a good way.
The opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else?
Very cool.
We're good. This was great. Thank you so much for breaking it down.
I'm sure you have a bunch of new things to work on in the 15 minutes that you've been on. So good luck. Good luck building, and excited to follow.
Yeah, thanks for breaking it down. I actually
thanks for having me, guys. It's been cool to see everything blow up for you guys in a good way.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
we'll talk to you soon.
Great to chat. Cheers.